Welcome to the Liberated Leader Podcast. I'm your hostess, Bea Chan. Together, we'll connect with leaders in the psychedelic space and explore the creations they birthed into this world, all in hopes to bring the psychedelic renaissance into the 21st century and spread the message of inner healing. Because when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. So, let's get liberated. Hey everyone, this is Bea Chan. I am the founder and creator of AKITA Agency, and we help psychedelic integration coaches, guides, therapists evolve their business from a private one-to-one to one-to-many client model by co-creating evergreen funnels that lead to online courses and group coaching programs. And so this podcast is really a way for us to be interacting, highlighting, and showcasing the leaders in our psychedelic community. Now would be a good time for me to introduce myself, tell you a bit about me and my journey, and I hope that resonates with you and hope that helps you. I would say I had a pretty typical Asian immigrant family upbringing where, there was a bit of domestic violence. I grew up really sheltered with a lot of unconscious parenting, which basically silenced my voice. So children are to be obedient, to respect their elders, to basically listen to everything that they say and do what they want, because it's a face related thing. You want to give them face or not bring shame to the family and whatnot. And so I grew up equating love to achievement. So when you get the highest grade in class, or when you got into this school, that's something that your parents like to brag about. And so in order for you to get attention, or in order for me to get attention, that's how I needed to perform. And so it was almost like, it was essentially never enough mentality. So, you got 99% on your test. Why didn't you get 100? You got an A. Why not A+? That definitely impacted self-love, self-worth, self-confidence, self-esteem, and that drive for ambition just never really left, because that's how you were conditioned. That's how I was conditioned when I was young. And so my life basically consisted of normal regular school, piano lessons, Chinese school, and also all these like extracurricular activities like I think we went to like tennis camp, badminton, drawing classes, ice skating, summer vacation Bible school, even though we weren't religious, and ballet classes, like literally everything in between. But I really like that exposed me to a bunch of different things, which I think is good, but I never got the chance to decide which one of those I liked. I never got asked. And also I didn't know that I could say something about it. So my mom just picked a certain thing, for example, piano. And it's like, yeah, this is what you're going to do. And since I was really young, I think I was like 5 when I started, it just became a normal everyday life. And I didn't know that I had the choice to actually quit. I just didn't even know that I had that option. And so what happened was I studied with the Royal Conservatory of Music in London all the way till the end. So I went from level 1 to 10 to level 11 is your ARCT performers level. And I got that by the time I was in grade 10, grade 11 in school. And then I went and I studied piano pedagogy, which is like the teacher's level. And at that time they were rebranding it. So I did pedagogy number 1 and I taught for a few years. And this was all when I was still in high school. So I had my own like solo recital. I got to that high level and I graduated that and basically was a classically trained pianist that competed in competition for money and medals and like medallions and stuff like that since I was young and throughout my high school. Coupled with Chinese school on Saturdays where we were learning how to speak. So we spoke Cantonese at home because my parents are from Hong Kong, but we were learning Mandarin at that time. And reading and writing and about the history of it and like Confucius and, all that type of stuff. And once we graduated from that school, we went into private tutoring. And so I had a teacher who was from Taiwan, and we were learning quite advanced like Chinese history and stuff like that, which was, well, I've forgotten all of it now, and poetry and whatnot, Chinese poems from Chinese philosophers like back in the day. But yeah, that was kind of cool. That was kind of cool because not a lot of people were doing that. But I didn't understand the type of pressure that put on me at such a young age. And because I didn't understand, I had nothing to compare with, right? So because I didn't understand, I would say I came out with it being more like diligent, more disciplined, and understanding what commitment meant. Because, for example, for piano, it's not just practicing or memorizing pieces, right? You're also taking music history lessons and music theory and learning how to compose and like, harmony and all that type of stuff. So that took up a lot of time. Plus competitions, you're preparing for it, and also exams, like almost on an annual basis. So yeah, there's that. And basically that whole love equals achievement thing progressed into my university years, where, my piano portion of my life has now concluded. And once I went into university, I kind of went a bit crazy, because when I was younger, it was such a controlled environment that my mom just kind of controlled my schedule. And so once I went to university, like I was, had a part-time job, made my own money and whatever, they couldn't really control me to that extent. And so I did go a little bit crazy in terms of, I didn't come home, or I didn't tell them I wasn't coming home, or like I came home at 5 a.m. in the morning and they couldn't really say anything. I failed a couple of classes. Well, I failed one class. I lost my scholarship. Like it just kind of like went off the opposite end. But I feel like I found my way back, because in the end, I did a study abroad to Taipei when I was 19, and that has always been the seed that kind of grew for my the impression that Taiwan or like Asia has left on me. Never left me. Wow. To taking advantage of co-op program, internship programs throughout university. And then by the time I graduated, I literally went from job to job to job, each one better than the last, of course, right? I was trying to build a career. And I did that for 6-7 years. And like, being a homeowner by the time I was 25, buying way too early. It was a great price that I got, but like buying way too early when I wasn't ready for that, by being peer pressured and being led by my parents to be like, well, now that you graduated and you're making money, what are you going to do with it? Obviously, the next logical thing to do is actually, invest in property, even though I wasn't ready for it. I was literally the only single person in my whole entire building of like 30 floors that was single. Like on my floor alone, it was just all families or people who were coupled up. So feeling out of place. And then also working in very highly, highly male dominated industries, where I was in a role where I worked with a lot of managers and people who were my parents' age, and they kind of had to listen to me. That definitely made me mature a lot faster, because when you say something, you need to put weight behind it, and learning how to bond with people who are so different than you. That was something that I had to learn, and quickly, if I wanted to get any results in the places that I worked at. But, every time I went to a new job, I made more money, I got that title and got that recognition and whatnot. And I was like achieving by societal standards. It actually made me feel so much more empty inside. It's like, so what if I'm making 6 figures? So what if I bought my place? So what if I, have a nice fancy car? Like what? That's not adding value, actual value to my life. And so when I realized by like the 6th or whatever 7th job that I hopped to, that it really wasn't, like this feeling of emptiness wasn't going to go away. I did something really drastic. I quit my job and I bought a one-way ticket to Asia. And I went to Chiang Mai, Thailand, because at that time, there's this thing, this was 3 years ago, and there's this thing called a digital nomad. Mysterious thing to me that I'm like, oh my God, people can live like this. People can work online, make enough money, and then they can travel to all these different places and it pays for their lifestyle. And they're their own boss and they get to pick and choose who they work with, when they work, what type of work they do, and whatnot. This is so cool. This is exactly what I want. I want that freedom. I want this independence. I want this autonomy. And so I did it. I went there, met a whole bunch of people who thought exactly the same as me and who wanted that goal and who were actually on the way or have already achieved that. And they've been doing it for years. And so that led me to my first experience traveling by myself. It was really scary. It was so worth it. Like, it was so worth it. So I spent most of my time in Chiang Mai, Thailand, went down to the Thai islands as well, had some fun in Bangkok. And then the other half of the time, I was actually in Taipei, Taiwan, because of, I just felt really nostalgic for me. I just wanted to be there. I still had friends from when I studied abroad. I understood the culture, the language, the food, the people, so much more so than my actual than, you know, where my parents actually came from, Hong Kong. I definitely don't feel the same type of connection to that city-state. And so, yeah, I split my time between Taipei and Chiang Mai. And in between, I would go into like Hong Kong, Macau, China. I would be in Tokyo. I went to Burma and so on and so forth. I grew in so many different ways. I started my entrepreneurial journey. I taught myself how to do marketing. I worked with a lot of different people, subcontracted myself out to bigger agencies, and just collaborated with people in different ways. And I started I would say my spiritual awakening, really, really taking a deep dive into myself, how I grew up, my triggers, my traumas, my conditioning, learning about the universe, learning about how energy works, and being surrounded by people who also believed in the same thing. And we were able to discuss things and teach each other different modalities. Everything from manifesting to affirmations to taking it like biohacking and taking care of your body. And I was in masterminds, and I organized my own masterminds with people that I met about how to level up our business, how to level up our lifestyle, how to level up really anything that we want. And we all had our own, well, I made sure that we all had our own specialty. So we actually are the subject matter expert within that little group. So we can teach each other things. Of course, in the same vein, I got into psychedelics. What I mean by spiritual journey is throughout my time in Asia, I got into a crowd where it was all about like holistic healing. And so every so often we would do like a sound bath healing, or we would do meditation, or there's some sort of yoga class to take. I met this Akashic Records reader who became great friends with me, who taught me about manifesting, who taught me about, you know, angel numbers and how to pull cards, how to interpret dreams. And actually in Chiang Mai is where I had my first psychedelic encounter, and also where I got into the world of plant medicine as well. So I was up in Pai, Thailand, which is just a few hours north of Chiang Mai. And they're actually, it's like the little hippie town, right? It's a little hippie town, and they're known for mushroom shakes. And so they have their magic mushrooms up there. And basically what they will do with it is, it's a really watered down version, and that's why I didn't really feel anything. But what they would do is they'll boil the mushroom in water, and they'll mix it with some sort of juice, like Kool-Aid or something. And then like they'll sell it to you, like a tourist, for like $20 pop. And so all I felt was like a little body high. And that was my first experience, right? And my friends are saying, yeah, you'll see, like, if you look at the table and there's like lines on it, you'll see it like moving and dancing, like you'll feel this and that. And I just totally did not get that experience at all. And so I thought, okay, well, I don't know, maybe they watered it down too much. Maybe, you know, I'll try something else, right? I'll try it somewhere else next time. And so there's that. That was my first experience ever. And that was a little bit of a letdown, but like I did feel really relaxed. I felt buzzed, and I'm like, okay, like that was a good first try. And then the second time I had shrooms again was actually down in the Thai islands. And I bought a package of like dried mushrooms, like the size of my palm, like around this much. And I was at a friend's place. I ate the whole thing. And I also didn't feel much. I don't think I felt anything, actually. It wasn't completely dry. She put it in the fridge, I remember. And when she took it out, it was like kind of wet. So maybe like, I don't know, maybe it just wasn't as potent. And so what I ended up doing that time was like, no, I want this experience. I'm looking for it. And so I mixed it with cannabis and MDMA. And finally, I felt something. And it was this really euphoric feeling of everything's so perfect in my life. Like, I'm exactly where I need to be. This is my path. Like, I'm supposed to go. Like, I just know, I feel it, that this is where I'm supposed to be. Right. And I did that a couple days in a row. And until like the third day, I woke up just feeling really, really greasy. And I think it was the come down from the M, even though it was, I was told it's pure. I just felt gross. Like I just felt like I was so greasy, and like the toxins were like coming out from my body, and I just couldn't wait to take a shower to just kind of clean off that type of feeling. And as I reflected on the prior 2 days, I realized that, you know, that euphoric feeling, I actually felt that before, completely sober, before I had any psychedelics in my body before. I was actually in Chiang Mai. I was really on point with my spiritual routines, evening and morning. And one night I was, and by my routines, I mean in the morning, I'd wake up, I'd meditate, I'll do some yoga, I'll say my affirmations as I'm walking to the gym. I'd meet my trainer there. I do a full hour of pretty intense workout, come home, shower, have breakfast before I started work. So I was pouring into my own cup first before I allowed other things to take my energy. And in the evening, it was pretty similar, except it was like a winding down thing. So instead of going to the gym, right, I'd be like reading a book. I'd be like writing in my gratitude journal. I'll be doing forgiveness practices, and, you know, I'll be pulling cards. That's when I'll be shuffling and pulling from my angel deck. And so because I was so consistent, one night as I was falling asleep in my bed, I just felt the same feeling. I was euphoric. I literally remember thinking to myself, my life is so perfect. Like, I have nothing to complain about. Like, I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate that everything just lined up for me. It was really scary for me to quit this career that I've been building for the last 6 years and buy a one-way ticket to some place and country I've never been to. I don't know anybody and don't even speak the language. And then to have met a wonderful group of people who I really aligned with and are living the life that I want to be living, and showing me that that is proof that it's real, that I can also achieve that. And everything just working out for me the way that it's supposed to, or the way that it has. Yeah, I was just falling asleep in bliss. That's the only way that I can describe it. And so knowing that I've had that experience completely sober, I thought, then why do I need to take anything to feel that way? Like, if I've done it before, I can access it. I don't need to, you know, have the shortcut way to get there. And so that was that. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll just treat this as like a bucket list item and, like, you know, check, there you go, on to the next thing. Let's not do this again. Until I went to Taipei. Now, before I left Chiang Mai, I actually had my first ever plant medicine ceremony. It was grappe, Kambo, and sanaga. And so my friend ended up going to this one person, and she had a really, really, really amazing time, was telling me about this. And so I got convinced, and I convinced myself that I should go as well. And it was first time getting grappe. And I remember I almost fainted. It was my friend and I, we had a private ceremony with Max, who was the person who facilitated everything for us. Thank you, Max. And we got served rapé first because it's grounding. It's like basically what rapé is: tobacco leaves grinded up with other herbs, and it's mixed together, and it's basically shot up your nose. So the person would put it in this little like V-shaped pipe, and they would like blow it up your nose. And so in both sides, so like, one at a time. And what it's supposed to do, it's supposed to help you ground. I'm not a big fan of rapé or hape, some people call it, because it stings so much, and it's just like this feeling of it's almost like you ate too much wasabi, and like the tears are coming out of your eyes, and like your sinuses are like clearing up, and some people like that. I'm just like not the hugest fan of it. Like I'll do it if I have to, but I prefer not to. And so that was my first time doing it, and I was the first one that went, and then my friend went. And so he was like watching me have this done. And the first side that got blown out my nose, I instantly just felt dizzy. It was like hot, it was itchy, it was spicy. And my vision was kind of getting blurry. And I remember I grabbed Max's knee, and I like squeezed on it just to let him know, hey, like I'm not doing okay right now. I'm not ready for the other side. But anywho, that was my first experience with rapé. And then the Kambo is basically the Kambo was good. So actually, sorry, backtracking with rapé, at that point I actually felt a tingling sensation within my hands. And I didn't know, well, it was a new sensation for me, so I just didn't really know what was going on, but I felt things tingling. And so with Kambo, it's a Brazilian tree frog, I believe, and there's poison on its skin that you can harvest. And what they'll do is they'll burn your skin, the top 2 layers, and then they would put this poison in you, like on the burns, so that it can go into your bloodstream and basically physically like restart your immune system, so that any kind of ailments that you might have, like an infection or bacterial, whatever, it can try to clear all of that out of your system. And so you're purging, you're puking, and you're sweating it out, you're shaking, you're, I don't know, crying, or some sort of way of getting that out of your body. And so for most people, and for myself, I was purging. I was like puking a lot. And I remember as I was puking, my hands totally just clawed up like this, like almost I couldn't even open it. And I remember Max telling me to just breathe. And so I'm like, okay, then I just need to like breathe through the moment. And that's all I was doing, just keeping that in my mind. Just be like, okay, just breathe, long, deep breaths, just keep going until it subsided. And it did. And then my elbows were on top of the bucket like this, right? And finally, when my hands were able to open up, I felt these electric jolts jumping between my fingertips, like on both sides. And even to this day, when I meditate or like I really focus on it, I still feel it, obviously to a way lesser degree. I still feel that little, I don't know how else to call it, but that electricity jolt. So I think that's been really cool and kind of my first introduction to energy, right? And the last one was sanaga, which the beautiful nickname of lightning to the eyes, or lightning for the eyes. And they are eye drops, and also a bunch of like herbs grounded into a powder and some sort of liquid solution, maybe it's just water, add it to it, and they will drip it into your eye, and it stings like a bitch. So it's supposed to help you with your vision. I did LASIK eye surgery, so I still have 20/20, and so I didn't feel like it helped me all that much, but I appreciate the experience. and I felt really light. I felt really clean for the next at least a week or two. And so that was my first experience going through that. And yes, it is not a psychedelic, right? You're completely present. You're not tripping out somewhere else. Like, you don't really have that luxury. And so it is a pretty strong reset. Would I recommend everyone to do it? Probably not. Would I do it again myself? I don't like the fact that okay, so my dots, when they burned my skin, I had 3 dots, by the way. And they got infected as it was healing. And so it's scarred on my body. Like it's really visible, right? And I think I'm just not a fan of modifying my body. And so if I can get Kambo in some other way without changing my physical, I would do it again. But because of the burning and the scarring and whatnot, and especially having dry skin, people with dry skin, we do scar a lot easier. So that is my first experience into the plant medicine world. So after Kambo, then I did the shrooms, and then I was like, okay, I'll just check off my bucket list. I'm fine. And it wasn't until maybe 6 months later, I was in Taipei, and I kept hearing about LSD. It's like, oh, microdosing and productivity and focus, and like, it helps you with so much stuff. And I was just like, yeah, maybe I should revisit that. Maybe I should try this one, right? Maybe I'll add this to my bucket list. Try it just one time and see how I feel. And so I bought a tab off of a friend, and I had another friend sit me for the day, and we were out in nature. I took the full tab, and I also didn't get the experience that my friend told me that I would. I felt a little bit buzzed, a bit relaxed, and that was about it. And so again, I chalked it up to, okay, maybe like my body just doesn't process this stuff. So, okay, check off my bucket list. I don't have to look at this again. I'm done. I'm over it. And then it wasn't until I went to Mexico. I was there for 7 months. I was going from city to city, and most of the other digital nomads and expats I met were very pro psychedelics, very pro sacred ceremonies and plant medicine and all that. And so me having fallen into this crowd once again, I decided to try it. And so there were many times where I was just tripping with friends, or we literally like rented a mansion in Mexico for a weekend, and we all were taking psilocybin truffles mixed with like cannabis and whatever else, and we just stayed up all night talking. It was like talk therapy for all of us, and getting to know one another, and having insights and sharing lessons, and all the things that you do within a community to bond. And in Mexico, I had 2 psychedelic plant ceremonies with people who really, really did hold space really well. So my first plant ceremony was supposed to be ayahuasca. I had done all my research, found the local vendors, I vetted them, or I tried to vet them anyways. I contacted them, wanted to talk to them, but it was in Mexico, like the information online about themselves is scarce. Like you probably won't find a website, maybe a Facebook page at best, and it would have minimal information on it. So how you go about finding them is actually talking to friends or joining the WhatsApp groups, expat WhatsApp groups, and then asking people for their recommendations. And that's what I ended up doing. And so I had this one that was highly recommended by a lot of people that I knew that personally went there and still continue to go there. And I was going to go. However, I met somebody who was going to go at the same night I was. And I met them a couple days before in person, sober. I just wanted to see, because I didn't know people that was going. I wanted to like make some sort of a connection first, and we would go together or have that kind of safe bonding. And what I realized was I don't feel comfortable with this person. It was quite an energy drain for me to be around them. And so I thought, okay, if this is me feeling drained already and depleted already, completely sober, when I am at my most vulnerable, right? When I'm in an altered state, how would I feel being in close quarters with this other person? And it didn't feel good. That's my intuition telling me that this is not the one for me to go to. And so I decided to listen to my intuition. And at that point, I actually was quite nervous about ayahuasca because from the research that I did from my own network, it was pretty 50-50. Like half of the people did not have a good experience and the other half did. And the type of stories that I was told or that I heard about the not so good experiences, that really freaked me out. And so I wanted to make sure that I had the information that I needed to feel safe in order to go ahead with it. And so at that point, when I decided to not go to this ayahuasca provider or this retreat, I thought, okay, let me try to find another ceremony that is not as intense to kind of like warm me up to that, right? Like a baby step to that. And I thought to find a psilocybin. I was doing my research. I was trying to find it. Nothing came up. There was just, in the city that I was in at that moment, there was nothing happening. And so I contacted a few providers, and this one couple who have been doing it for decades, I ended up talking to for a whole hour and just asking them questions about this and that, and like, how do they do it, and how do I prepare, and what I feel during it and after. Like, they basically took the time to answer all of my questions, and they tried to source psilocybin for me so they could have the ceremony for me, but they couldn't get the supply. And so what ended up happening was they invited me to a small, it's like 4 people, that they were going to do that weekend for 5-MeO-DMT. So 5-MeO-DMT is the spirit molecule. It is deemed as the most intense experience on psychedelics. I don't know if that's factual or opinion or just an opinion, but it was quite intense. So for me, and I hum and hawed about it because I'm like, okay, if it's more intense than ayahuasca, what, like that's not a baby step. Like, well, what am I doing, right? So I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? If I start at the very top and I make it through that alive, right? And like I do it and I'm okay and I've done it, then why would I be scared by Aya then? Like, it doesn't make sense. And so I convinced myself of that, and I went and I did 5-MeO. The ceremony was during the day, and it was really, really, really small. It was me, my friend, and like 2 or 3 other people, 5 participants max, and 2 facilitators in their hacienda, in their little like, I don't know what to call it, like house, in their house in Mexico, in rural Merida, Mexico. And first we started, we opened up the ceremony with a prayer where we sent blessings, prayed, and like got blessed by the 4 different directions, and we build the fire log together. And I thought that was quite symbolic. That was a really good open, and you know, there were poems that were read and whatnot. And then we started with grappe, and this one was strong. This is the second time I've been served grappe, and it was stronger than when I did my Kambo. And I knew that I was going to get dizzy, so I sat right down. I'm like, okay, I'm cross-legged. I sat down. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm ready. And it shot up my nose, and the same feeling of like it's spicy, like it stings, like that wasabi feeling came back, except so much more intense that I started just swirling. There's no other way for me to put it. So it's like, you know, those Russian dolls, but then the base of it is like in a circle. It's not actually straight, and it just like rotates. I was basically swerving in a circle involuntarily. Like, I wasn't making myself do that. I was just moving in that direction, like big circles, what it felt like. And then as time subsided, it became smaller and smaller and smaller. But when that was happening, my vision started to blur. And if you can imagine an old TV set, like back in the 60s or something, and if it's broken, the image of it would actually like slowly go up to the top, and then it will repeat itself on the bottom again, if you know what I'm talking about. And so that was my vision in real life. So whatever I was staring at, the log with the fire at that time, it just like went up, and then from the bottom again and came back up. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Do I even need to do 5-MeO right now. Like, I think this experience is like enough for me. Like, this is intense enough. So I knew that subsided, and then it was time to do 5-MeO. And so they're like crystal shards, and it's in a bong. They heat it up, and when they're ready, they'll let you know. Then you inhale the fume. You inhale the smoke. You hold it into your lungs for as long as you can. I think she said count to 10 or 30 seconds or something crazy like that. And then you can slowly blow it out. And when I did that, I immediately fell down. I didn't have enough strength to keep myself upright. I fell backwards onto my mat. And because I wasn't the first one to have been served, I saw what the initial person did, and he fell back and onto his side. I'm like, oh, that's really smart, so I won't choke on my own saliva, right? So I fell back and leaned onto my side, and I immediately, my body just completely melted into the ground, and I couldn't feel my body. There was no sensation. I didn't know where my body started and where the floor, or where the ground, the earth ended. Like, we just became one. It was just like one thing. And I finally saw fractals. I'm usually not a visual person when I'm on psychedelics, but I finally understood, oh, these are fractals. Okay, cool. Yeah, they're colorful. And I ended up puking, but there was nothing to puke. I didn't have anything to eat that day, and there was nothing to puke out. It was just like saliva. So I'm like, I'm not sure why I'm puking, but okay. And then I couldn't move my body, so I just kind of had to like lay there for, I don't know how much time went on. It felt like 5 minutes. And the whole time, I had this mental battle in my head of, okay, this is how I'm feeling right now. I can't feel my body. Is this ego death? But if it's ego death, how can I still be thinking so coherently? But I think I did. No, I didn't do it. Like, I don't think I did it. Maybe I didn't take enough. Yeah, maybe that's the reason. But like, what is this I'm feeling then? How come I can't get up? How come I can't move my body? So all this internal chatter was happening the whole entire time until I can sit back up and like kind of feel back to normal again. And when I sat back up, like literally 10 seconds later, my facilitator came back to me and said, I feel like you need a second serving. And I said, I knew you were going to say that. So she gave me a second one, and down on the floor I went again. And again, I melted into the ground, and I saw fractals again. And this time, I don't think I got better at it. This time, it was still that internal chatter. But at least I experienced the first time, so I was familiar with the feelings of it. And this time I was just trying to tell myself to relax. It's like surrender, surrender, surrender. And I wasn't doing it. I was not doing it. And in the end, the ceremony concluded, and I just felt, I was journaling a lot about what I learned, and I just felt really sad. Like, I felt like I failed, you know? I felt like I failed because I didn't reach ego death. So let me back up and explain. I didn't know that was ego death at that time. So what ended up happening was I actually went home and I Googled it. I was doing research. I was looking up, okay, what does it feel like? What is this ego? Like, I've heard of the concept, but I didn't know what it felt like, what it was supposed to look like. And so I was Googling it, and then finally I'm like, okay, so what I did experience was that. And so my biggest takeaway from 5-MeO was, holy shit, like, I did it. I wasn't even aware that I reached my goal, and I didn't celebrate it, right? So I basically ruined my moment, my experience of it, by being so analytical, by not trusting that I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing, that I am unaware that I already did it. And so, like, where else in my life am I showing that attitude or that trait or that way of thinking? And it's like a lot of different areas. When I actually look back at it, when I actually analyze, you know, my life and how I go about it, a lot of areas. And I think that's also, it's not just me. I think most people are like that, to be honest. This is why we need to put into practice experiencing or celebrating all the little things. It's the little victories that stack up to the big ones, right? Making the time to share your win and to celebrate and to tell people about it. And then 2 weeks later, I had my Aya ceremony. And this time around was with a different provider. And a lot of my friends told me they went through hell to get to heaven. And that's like kind of like the typical thing. And I guess I had a little bit of hell. It was out in the jungle. It was one night overnight. I did the same kind of strategy, I guess. I reached out to people to see if they knew anybody that was going to the same one. And I was introduced to a friend who was going to the same night that I was. And so we met up in person beforehand. And then we took a taxi and went there together the next day. And so we were out in the jungle. We're laying down in the yoga mat. It's literally just, we're in a circle around a fireplace. And again, we started with grappe. It's like, oh no, I don't like this. I was going to opt out, but I thought, you know what? I'm new to Aya. I don't know what's going to do to me. I don't know how my experience is going to be. I better have some grounding. And so I told the person serving, well, first of all, it was a big group, maybe like 7 people who were facilitating, but we were a big group too. We had it was maybe like 7 to 10 people facilitating, and we had about like 70 participants. And it was so big that we sectioned it out to like 3 different campsites. And so there were 3 people serving rapé, and we started pretty early in the afternoon, like 2 p.m. or something, or 12 o'clock. And so I picked the person who I felt has the most gentle energy. and I was also watching how they served people and the reaction of those people before I chose. And so I went to this one that I thought had the most gentle energy, and I said, I just want a little bit, like I don't need a lot. And he said, okay, butterfly. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. But when he served me, then I understood. Like, it was such the most gentlest way to shoot things up somebody's nostril that I barely felt it. I didn't have that sting. It didn't really feel that much. It was just really, really, gentle. I was like, wow, I didn't know. Like a new way to be served. Rapé. I had no idea that was even possible. And so with that baby rapé, we had a opening ceremony where, we went over the ground rules and, what to do, what to expect, and all that type of stuff, and the timing of things. And finally we got started. So everybody went up for their first cup at that time. And, it takes about like 20 to 40 minutes at least to make it through your digestive system and for you to actually feel the medicine coming on. And while we were waiting for it to kick in, they were doing I don't know what you call it. They were blowing tobacco at us for protection, right? And so when it finally did kick in, I heard a lot of people puking around me. There were people puking around me. There were people crying. There were people having full body orgasms. And then I also heard a couple of giggles. And I was actually one of those people. I didn't purge in a way that other people were. Like the puking, I didn't puke. I yawned a lot. It was like yawn after yawn after yawn. And it got really annoying because like your jaw just opens up so much. But it was to the point of, like I'm tripping at this point, and every yawn, a whole galaxy came out of my mouth. So I was like giving birth to creation. I was creating all these different solar systems and like planets and stuff like that. It was really cool, actually. And the message there was, you are the creator. We are all creators. We're all creators of our life. We're all creators of our universe. We're co-creators in this universe. And if you don't like your current reality, guess what? You created it. Which also means you can create something else. If you don't like it, you can change it. You have full power to change it. So don't play a victim. There's no need for that. When it first kicked in, my scary part was I was being eaten alive by things I was scared of, like insects, cockroaches, spiders, tarantula, ants, like everything. In my mind's eye, my body was, I was laying down and I couldn't move. And all these creepy crawlies were on me and they were eating my body alive and I couldn't move. There was nothing that I could do about it. But I knew physically that I was, out in the jungle, I was on the yoga mat, I was surrounded by people and I was looking up at the sky. Like I knew that. And so, thank goodness I took this program called TCP by Jim Fortin. It's transformational coaching program. And it's basically a 12-week program where it does talk about your life and spiritual development and all this type of stuff. And I knew at that time that a lot of our thoughts are not real. Okay? A lot of it is our interpretation of a certain situation or of a fact, but it's not actually factual. Our thoughts, this is where like the monkey brain comes from, like the monkey mind, the endless chatter. It's just stuff that like, I don't know, our brain just thinks up. It's just stuff that we think up, and we don't have to attach ourselves to it. Many people do, but we don't have to do that. That's what meditation is, which is what meditation supports, right? It's like, which is what meditation does. You sit there and you observe your thoughts. Just let it go. When it comes up, just let it go. You don't have to attach. You don't have to identify with it. It just is. And so having that skill, being aware of that concept and having practiced that through this course, I was able to really quickly just like accept the fact that, first of all, I knew I was completely safe. I knew I was physically safe. And secondly, it's like, you know what? If eating up my body is what makes you happy and there's nothing I can do about it, all I can do is accept. There's no point of resisting. There's no point in resisting. I cannot resist. And so I just accepted that and surrendered to that. And very quickly, that all went away and it basically shot up into heaven. And so how that looked like was yawning out the galaxies for sure. And I was I was like in between two worlds. The world, one world was when I had my eyes opened and I can see everything, like my surrounding, where I was. And when I looked up in the sky, there was this, if you can imagine, little kids when they blow bubbles, and there's this, like when you see the bubble floating, there's this like rainbow film. That's what it looked like. I was inside like a bubble almost, and everything that I saw had this kind of shiny rainbow film to it. But it was also, it had different patterns, like, and it was kind of like a rope. It had different patterns and it was like interlocked and knotted together in a certain way. But it was translucent, so I can see past it into everything that was, actually there. But I saw this through this lens, through this like rainbow plastic lens. And it felt like my grandma was the moon. My grandma became the moon, basically. And, grandmother Aya makes sense. And I was in a little crib, and that's why I was like staring up at my grandma because she's looking at me. So in a little crib, and she just wanted to look at me. She wanted to play with me, right? It's like, oh, it's a baby. People usually want to cuddle them or want to play with them, or like want to make them happy. So every time I looked up into the sky, that's the feeling that I had. I was like a little child again. I was so happy that my grandma is looking down on me and is paying attention to me and just like wants me to be happy. When I closed my eyes, I was in a different world. It wasn't very visual for me, but it was more downloads of just like knowledge, like just knowing. I just knew like, oh, this is like factual. Like this is what happened. So a lot of my past life stuff came up. So I've been Asian for many, many, many lives. I've been an empress. I've been royalty. I've been very successful. I've been, all this stuff. And that really was a reminder to me that is in my cards. That is who I am. That is my identity. And it has been in all of these past lives. And therefore it is in this life. And so there's no reason why I need to be doubting myself. Success is in my cards. It's going to happen. So in this Aya ceremony, I was given assignments. I was given assignments to help the psychedelic industry. It's still very nascent. It's budding. And I somehow needed to figure out how to help this industry grow and the people in it, because it is for the greater good. You know, everybody needs to heal. Whether they want to do it or not, that's a separate question. But, you know, psychedelic medicine, plant medicine, fungi, toad medicine, like it's all there for the same purpose. And it is very much a medicine. I think most things are pretty neutral, and how you use it determines if it's bad or good, which is also very subjective and relative. I know that there's a lot of social stigma still attached to it, especially back in the 60s and 70s and like the whole campaign with President Nixon and whatnot, which is why now 40 or whatever, 50 years later, we're now making this comeback, right? There's the renaissance, the psychedelic renaissance. It's coming back, the third wave of it. And so I really want to help fight the good fight. And that is, it is medicine. It's not drug. If you know, people can use it for therapeutic reasons, purposes. People can use it for recreational purposes as well, but like do it in the right set and setting, do it with the right intentions, right? Do the work to prepare for it, do the integration work afterwards to incorporate what you learned from that journey into your life so you can actually better yourself. So you can do all this healing work and become a better version of you. And once many people are the better versions of ourselves, imagine how that's going to impact our world, right? We're coming into the age of Aquarius. This is going to happen. We're coming into the age of Aquarius. We're coming into 2022. We've had this global pandemic for the last few years now. You know, a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are seeking the medicine out. But do it in a way where it is responsible, right? Educate yourself on the work, the preparation and integration work, because that is really where the magic is. The journey is the journey, which is great. But if you're not going to be incorporating it into your life on a regular basis, if you're not going to be taking the actions to better yourself, why do it, right? And that is why I've chosen to dedicate AKITA to helping psychedelic therapists, coaches, and guides and sitters, because these are the people who will be guiding you on your own journey. You are your own healer, right? They're just there facilitating. They're there helping you through it. They're there supporting you. But really, I think the public, those who are interested in starting this work, should educate themselves. That is why we are inviting leaders in our space to talk about their work and how they can be helping the general public heal and evolve. And that wraps up my story. Take what resonates and discard the rest. Let me know how I can help you on your journey. I hope we can help educate people and bring more awareness and shed some light on some things that are still very much underground and kept in the dark because of legality, because of social stigma, because it is not accepted in our societal standards. It's not conventional. And for those who are seeking to learn alternative ways, holistic ways, I hope this serves as a resource for you. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for connecting. Catch you next time.
This podcast is brought to you by AKITA Agency. We transform overwhelmed healers into liberated leaders with our signature AKITA Liberation Loop method. We help psychedelic therapists and coaches evolve from a one-to-one to a one-to-many client model by co-creating evergreen funnels that lead to online courses and group coaching programs. We have a special gift for our listeners, a complimentary, bite-sized training series to level up your evergreen funnel knowledge. If you're not familiar with or feel overwhelmed with marketing, sales, and funnels, then this training is for you. Just go to akitaagency.com/tutorial. Thank you for listening to the Liberated Leader Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, then please 1. Leave us a positive review, share it with a friend. 2. Join our tribe on social. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Until next time, to your liberation and beyond.